50-move rule. The 50-move rule in chess states that a player can claim a draw if no capture has been made and no pawn has been moved in the last 50 moves. For this purpose, a move consists of a player completing a turn followed by the opponent completing it too. The purpose of this rule is to prevent a player with no chance of winning from obstinately continuing to play indefinitely or seeking to win by tiring the opponent. All of the basic checkmates can be accomplished in well under 50 moves. However, in the 20th century it was discovered that certain endgame positions are winnable. The rule was therefore changed to allow certain exceptions in which 100 moves were allowed with particular material combinations. However, winnable positions that required even more moves were later discovered, and in 1992, FIDE abolished all such exceptions and reinstated the strict 50-move rule. Statement of rule. The relevant part of the official FIDE laws of chess is quoted below. 9.3 The game is drawn upon a correct claim by a player having the move if 9.3 1 he writes his move, which cannot be changed, on his score sheet and declares to the arbiter his intention to make this move, which will result in the last 50 moves by each player having been made without the movement of any pawn and without any capture, or chur, or chur, or chur, or chur. B9.3 2 The last 50 moves by each player have been completed without the movement of any pawn and without any capture. A claim does not have to be made at the first opportunity. It can be made any time when there have been no captures or pawn moves in the last 50 moves. A game is not automatically declared a draw under the 50-move rule. The draw must be claimed by the player whose turn it is to move. Therefore, a game can continue beyond a point where a draw could be claimed under the rule. When a draw under the 50-move rule can be claimed, one of the players is usually happy to claim it. Hooper and Wild 1992, 134. Games drawn under the 50-move rule before the endgame are rare. One example was the game Filipowicz vs. Smederevak, Polanica Zdroj 1966, where no captures had been made in the whole game. The game was drawn after move 70 by Smederevak on draw request by Filipowicz, the last pawn having been moved on move 20 by Smederevak. If 75 moves are made without a pawn move or capture being made, the game is drawn unless the 75th move delivers a checkmate. No claim needs to be made by either player, as the draw is mandatorily applied by the arbiter. 9.6 If one or both of the following occurs, then the game is drawn. 9.6 2 Any series of at least 75 moves have been made by each player without the movement of any pawn and without any capture. If the last move resulted in checkmate, that shall take precedence. Examples: Timman vs. Lutz 1995. In this 1995 game between Jan Timman and Christopher Lutz, an endgame with a rook and bishop versus a rook occurred. White is striving for the winning Philidor position while black is employing the drawing Cochrane defense and the second-rank defense. Black was defending well in the difficult defense and could have claimed a draw on the 119th move. Lutz notes that he claimed a draw on move 121. Ironically, when making a move that gets into a losing position. Lutz 1999, 129-32. Karpov vs. Kasparov 1991, 91. A draw by the 50-move rule could have been claimed after Black's 112th move in a 1991 game between Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov, but neither player claimed it. The last capture occurred on White's 63rd move, and the last pawn move occurred before that. White could have written his 113th move, which wouldn't have been a capture, or pawn move on his scoresheet, and claimed a draw. After White's 113th move, either player could have claimed a draw on his turn to move, without having to write down his next move. Instead, the game continued for several more moves. 113. Ng5 Ra6 plus 114. Kf7 Rf6 plus 1/2 1/2. The players agreed to a draw at this point because after 115 kxf6 the position is a stalemate. Kasparov 2010 303. If 115 ki rxf5 116 nxf5 and the position is clearly drawn because the two knights cannot force checkmate. C2 knights endgame. Lputian vs. Haroutjunian 2001. An unusual event occurred in a game in the 2001 Armenian Championship between Esembat Lputian, who won the championship, and Javor Haroutjunian. The last pawn move was on white's 86th move, and no captures occurred after it. The game was a theoretical draw from before here until black's 141st move. Black could have claimed a draw after white's 136th move or any of the subsequent moves. Instead, the game continued and black resigned on his 142nd move after white had achieved a forced winning position, even though the right to claim a draw was still in effect. None 2010 303-5. Nguyen vs. Vachir-Lagrave 2008. Another unusual event occurred in the Aeroflot Open of 2008 in a game between Nguyen and Gok Tuong Sun and Maxime Vachir-Lagrave. The last capture was on move 71, creating a rook and bishop versus rook endgame. The game was a theoretical draw until black blundered on his 113th move. White managed to find the win, but could not secure checkmate before the 50-move rule came into effect, and black claimed a draw. History